Hi guys, it's Mark Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Mark Zicree of Spaceman, and we've got our Kickstarter campaign going. We've been putting out interviews every day with our cast and crew as an extension of our Space Command convention. If you haven't seen the first episode we've released, it's down there. You can click on it. If you haven't seen the new pandemic episode we've released, which is not the sequel to the first episode, we're completing that now. But it's very, very cool that there's a link down there, and there's a link to our Kickstarter campaign. We've got to clear a little over $1,000 per day, or we won't hit our goal, and then it all goes back into the void, and we don't get any of it. So I've been thinking about some new perks that are really, really cool, and I just wanted to share them with you. Now, one of these is a Star Trek crate, and you get PDFs of everything that's inside of it. So it includes memos and outlines and scripts and all sorts of amazing things from Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Voyager, etc. And I'm going to do a separate video just on the crate, because for $500 you can get PDFs of all of that, and for $2,500 you can actually get the originals. So that's pretty phenomenal. And these are actual production scripts from those shows. Just amazing stuff. Early drafts where you'll be able to read how the show developed, how the episode developed. Incredible. So beyond that, another perk I'm going to have shortly is when I came up with Far Beyond the Stars, I went on the set and I took a photo with the cast on the set, and then they gave me the artwork that they had run off for the cover of that episode of the magazine that was going to show a 1950s version of Deep Space Nine and of the station. And so this was they printed these out to utilize, as for the episode. And so this was never sold commercially. It's entirely one of a kind. And I then had all of the cast sign it. So I framed that, and for $5,000 you can get that piece, the original signed photographed piece, and I'll even autograph it myself. So for $2,500 you can get this cool concept head of the Pisarra that we're turning into an 8-foot tall creature. This is the concept full sculpt, and there's only one of those, and that's $2,500 if you would like it. Now also, I've been thinking of some less expensive, sort of mid-range ones. So here's several things that are kind of cool. For $250 you can get my teenage scrapbooks. This is my life as a teenager, going to science fiction conventions, meeting various famous science fiction writers and actors. It's basically several years of my life from like 16, 17, 18, 19, where it's a PDF and it's all the photographs from these scrapbooks, and you can see my life during that period. And so that's $250, but it's really great fun. And beyond that, for $1,000, you can get a day with me. So basically, you would be responsible for flying yourself out to West Hollywood. This is when the pandemic's over, of course. You'd come out here, and for a day, you could go where I go, do what I do. So basically, we would take you out to lunch with one of our stars and me. If we were shooting, you could come on the set. Or if we had production meetings, you could go to those. You'd basically be with me throughout the day as I'm editing the show, as I'm perhaps giving notes to some of the actors, or any number of things, planning visual effects or sets or costumes, whatever the day would be. And you could also choose which day you'd like to come and what we're doing on that given day. So it's a experience of a lifetime. That's $1,000, and I pick up the tab for the lunch. So it'd be really, really fun. And beyond that, I thought of Mr. Sci-Fi's movie club. And in this case, it's $500. And what I do is I send you DVDs of 10 great science fiction movies, and then you can download video content of me talking about every single film, and it'll be the history of science fiction movies. So we might start off with, let's say, maybe Metropolis, and then maybe we'd go to Things to Come, and I talk about that extensively, and then we might have Forbidden Planet, or War of the Worlds, or 2001. It'll be some of my favorite science fiction movies. There'll be 10 of them, and that's $500, and it's a DVD. And if you throw in another 50, we can make it Blu-rays. But you'll get to hear from the beginning of cinema to some of the more recent decades, and some of these will include personal reminiscences of mine, knowing some of the people who made these films, and so forth. So it's quite a cool thing, and it's sort of like being able to watch these films with me. and we'll also send you a microwave popcorn, and that's $500. And all these perks will be put on the Mr. Sci-Fi, on the Kickstarter campaign, so you can pledge these things. Now here's the one that I'm most excited about. It's called Mr. Sci-Fi's Library. Now this is $1,000, and for $1,000 you get 10 science fiction classics hardcovers from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and I can inscribe and sign all of them if you'd like, or none of them. It's your call. But one of the 10 books will be signed by the famous science fiction author. Now, for the most part, as I say, these will be from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, authentic editions. Some might be ex-library. I love ex-library books because, like Citizen of the Galaxy, I grew up reading these books, checking them out from my school library. So I have a great fondness for these Heinlein juveniles. You can see there's Robert Heinlein, and these are amazing, wonderful books. I love these books, and so you'll get the actual copy, or they might be book club editions from that period, but many will be exactly as if you'd gone into a bookstore in 1955 and bought a science fiction book, but they'll be from all the great writers of science fiction. So let me show you some of these books, and again, there'll be a variety of books. For $1,000, you get 10 of them, and one will be signed by the science fiction luminary. Now, that edition might be a more recent edition, simply because it'll be, the writer signed them at my request. And so, but like, for instance, here's someone mentioned that they'd love a copy of Starman Jones. Well, here it is. This is Robert Heinlein. He wrote these great juveniles, and it even includes who checked them out and the dates, and there's a history to these books. These are lived-in books, but in good condition and quite wonderful. Or it might be one of my favorite books, Have Spacesuit Will Travel, another great Heinlein adventure, a terrific book that really holds up, with a great cover by Ed M. Schwiller. Or you might get The Sands of Mars by Arthur C. Clarke. And again, these publishers are really cool. It might be Scribner's, or in this case, it's Gnome Press, the great, there you go, Gnome Press. And so Sands of Mars, they have wonderful covers. Or it might be The Naked Sun by Isaac Asimov, and there's Asimov in his youth. So, or it might be some very, very cool movie tie-in book like This Island Earth, or it could be, here's The Forever War, and this one, Hugo-winning novel, great classic science fiction, signed by Joe Haldeman, one of my teachers at Clarion. And again, you'll get 10 classic science fiction novels, period novels, or it might be like this copy of Approaching Oblivion, signed by Harlan Ellison. Okay, so you get it. So of the 10 books, I can sign them all if you'd like, but also I will, one of the 10 will be signed by one of the greats of science fiction. Here's an early edition of The Martian Chronicles by my dear friend Ray Bradbury, and so for instance, in that case, you might get this edition, but you'd open it up and it'd be signed by Ray. And so, or it might be a great copy of a book by Theodore Sturgeon. Again, Ted was one of my friends and mentors. My photo of Ted that I took when I was 19 appears on 2 of his books, and as his author's photo. And then this says, to Mark and Elaine, from Theodore Sturgeon and his son Andros Sturgeon. And that's from the 70s, 1976. But now, and again, I won't be sending you the copies that were signed to me personally. Those are treasures of my collection, but they will be signed by the authors, and these will, for the most part, be authors who are no longer with us. Fortunately, Joe Haldeman is still with us, thank God. But they will be amazing copies, and that's $1,000. But my God, it's an incredible deal, because you would look far and wide to get this amount of reading pleasure. And there's something I find that when a book is of its period, there's just a different feel to it, to me, because you know that the aspirations of that novel, the dreams of the future that it contained, those were of that moment. And they were creating a future, and a future that came to fruition with the space program and so forth. And it's just wonderful. And they have the original artwork, and I really love this period, and I really love these books, and the artwork is spectacular. And they just have a great quality to them. And so you'll be picking up a book that maybe a science fiction fan bought in 1955 or 1960. And these books are all, 50 years old and more. And, and they're wonderful. So that's another wonderful perk that you can get. And so that's sort of it for now. I'm going to post these perks on the Kickstarter campaign. But again, if you can spring for 250 or 500 or 1,000 or $2,500 or $5,000. I know those are high ticket prices, but that will allow us to get the next episode done and the fourth episode completed, not including Ripple Effect, of course. And, it just allows us to continue forward. So we want to shoot the entire season of Space Command. And if we can keep the big wheel turning, that'll happen. So, and we're still selling Space Command shares, $7,500 each. So definitely go on Mr. Sci-Fi. You can click on the little description, and there's a phone number and my email address, and I'm happy to send you all the information. So that's about it for now. We'll talk again real soon. Thanks, guys. Good talking with you.